The Katara cotton spinning plant has been acquired by Melbourne-based company Rockley Spinning Mills. Rockley has also bought National Textiles' Rutherford plant. 30 people at Rutherford will lose their jobs, but Katara's entire staff is to go.
295 people actually will lose their job here at the Katara site. The remainder up at Rutherford.
Are those people likely to find other employment?
Knowing that we have something like 10% nationally unemployed, and I would think, knowing Newcastle and having come from Newcastle, that it's probably higher in this area, and there's very little likelihood, I would think, of these people getting jobs.
It was a concern echoed by unsurprised staff today.
We don't want it to happen, but we all knew that it was coming.
I'd say there's a lot of long-term employees here, many with over 20 years service, so they must be all up in the 40 to 50 age bracket. They'd have to be. So where is someone in 40 to 50 going to get a job?
A phased closure is planned at Katara, with production to be transferred to Rockley's other plants. The company says it regrets the move, but blames it on federal government rationalisation of the textile industry, which will see industry protection abolished by 1995. The mill will close by April, and until then the company has orders to satisfy. But the union expects some people to be given notice before Christmas.
They were even smiling in the tax department today, customers more than happy to hand over their well-earned cash. Lisa and Michael Hards had no excuse. They tied the knot for a lifetime of bliss and a permanent smile. People throughout Australia got into the act buying Smile for Life badges. In Newcastle, the Hunter Life Education Centre is hoping to raise $40,000 going to teaching children how to care for and maintain their bodies. It takes more than 40 muscles to bring on a frown and less than 20 to get grinning. Winners at the bingo weren't overexerting themselves, it was smiles all round. They say when you smile, the whole world smiles with you. But the boys in blue took the joke a little too far.
We can't have larrikins like you hanging around the streets. Now you're going straight in, okay? Right, all right. Keep smiling.
You've just got to smile. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
"65 members of the Nelson Bay RSL sub-branch paraded before the flag today to commemorate the league's 75th anniversary. Joining men and women from almost a century of battlefields was the Governor of New South Wales, Rear Admiral Peter Sinclair. While age may have wearied some of the old diggers, the Governor told the gathering that the RSL's role in Australia is as vital as ever. In its 44 years, the Nelson Bay sub-branch has grown from 17 members to more than 800. In that time, no governor had joined the sub-branch for a commemorative ceremony before, so the members were delighted today.
That's one of the highlights of the sub-branch, I think, to have the governor here.
80-year-old Jack Evans says today's ceremony was more than a commemoration of the RSL, it was a time to reflect on the mates you served with.
Well, you look back on all your mates that you served with, and some of them that lost their lives, and you always think of them.
For the Richmond Vale Railway Museum, A 12-year-old dream reached the end of the line today. A railway that once carried miners' trains from Pelham to the Richmond Main Colliery felt the touch of steel wheels and steam again for the first time since 1957. To the 100 members of the museum who have put the trains back on the rails, the restored line represents a direct link with the Hunter's rich mining heritage.
Richmond Main is a monument to the miners who worked here. We're only too pleased to be able to be part and parcel of that, to be able to record that history and be able to allow people the privilege of coming to the gate and seeing exactly how it was in those days when miners really did work hard.
The line was officially opened today by the Federal Minister for Road Transport, Bob Brown, who had helped engineer a $200,000 grant for the project. Mr Brown also unveiled the plaque for a new entry building named after Mick Frame. Mick is a retired miner who was at the forefront of transforming Richmond Main from derelict ruins to a living museum. He believes that by saving a window to its past, the Cessnock area is ensuring it has a future.
The crowd in the newly built grandstands of District Park enjoyed a day of great tennis, and after an overcast morning, the weather even cleared up to provide perfect conditions. In the Ladies Open singles, title holder Sally Clark took on Anne Williams, the 1980 and 81 winner. Hamilton got off on the right foot, taking the first game of the first set, but Clark conceded little in the next few games, easily winning the set 6-2. The second set was not so clear-cut though. The scoreboard quickly levelled at 4-all, with most games going to deuce. But ultimately Clark, the defending champion, regained control, winning 6-2, 6-4. This year's men's open singles presented a challenge for Brian Williams, attempting to win his 7th title and break the record. His opponent was William O'Neill, who won the title in 1988 and 89. After taking the first 3 games with ease, Williams lost ground to O'Neill's serves and went down in the first set 6-4. O'Neill followed up with a strong second set and took out the match 6-4, 6-2.
Recreational fishing is one of life's little pleasures for Barry Deflon, but like thousands of amateur fishermen across the state, he's finding his simple pastime is increasingly coming under government scrutiny and control. With more than 4 million fishermen in Australia, it's not unreasonable to expect controls on the random harvest of a limited resource. But Barry believes the time has come for fishermen to have a bigger say in where their sport is heading by forming their own association.
What we're saying is let's manage the fishery and try and get the people who use it to have the opportunity of influencing the bureaucrat and politician before he makes a decision, instead of trying to change the decision after it's made.
Barry's fledgling association is already attracting support from anglers, especially for its underlying principles of resource management. The association wants a say in a vast range of issues, from pollution and industrial development to the number of boat ramps. Barry strongly denies suggestions that the association is just a lobby group set up to fight bag limits, which were introduced on catches last year. He says most fishermen support the limits.
What was such a problem in the Hunter area in particular was not the bag limits were introduced, it was the manner in which they were imposed on the people without any reasonable opportunity to comment or influence the decision.
The formal launch of the New South Wales Recreational Fishing Federation will take place at the Cardiff District Workers Club tomorrow night.
Guests at Newcastle City Hall were given a preview last night of what Japanese audiences will hear when the choir tours there next month. The singers will be accompanied by Sydney baritone Robert Bickerstaff. According to the choir's director, Wynette Horn, the purpose of the trip is to promote friendship between Australia and Japan through music. This is not the group's first overseas appearance. Earlier this year, it performed at the prestigious Clangolan International Musical Eisteddfod in Wales.
A police spokesman said the person has been charged over a fire in her caravan at a Singleton van park on March the 29th. The spokesman says the teenager's caravan was burnt to the ground, killing her 6-week-old daughter who was trapped inside. The teenager has been charged with murder and maliciously destroying property with the intention of destroying life. She's been granted bail to face Singleton local court next Tuesday.
The factory, adjacent to the steelworks, produces a range of wire products used in building, the rural industry, engineering and tyre manufacturing. 2/3 of the plant's 400 production workers will be affected by the cutback.
There are a number of areas of the plant that are working normal time in order to maintain supplies to customers in the area of the bedding industry, transmission products, telecommunication products, and also products for tyre manufacture.
While the steel industry agreement guarantees workers their jobs for at least the next 18 months, there are union concerns about the facility in the long term. Mr Pennifold says he'll be adopting a policy of wait and see.
At this stage, we're not forecasting much improvement in our order book. We believe we can see the situation through till Christmas time, and we will then have to review the position in the new year.
The plant, like many others in the region, is a victim of the recession. And while some say recovery is beginning, others predict Newcastle is only now feeling the full effects as earthquake reconstruction work runs out.
Not only will their health improve, but they'll have the chance to win a new Daihatsu thanks to a new campaign launched by the Hunter Area Health Service and NIB today. In keeping with the Melbourne Cup spirit, smokers were given a timely reminder that they faced a 4-to-1 chance of dying from a smoke-related illness unless they quit. Not good odds when human lives are at stake.
In the 3 years Sue Rappel has been in the Hunter, she's seen enormous and sometimes tumultuous changes to the region's health system. The commissioning of the John Hunter Hospital, the sacking of the Area Health Board and massive cuts. But Mrs Rappel is about to leave her position as Executive Director of Nursing. She says she's completed her mandate to help set up the John Hunter and an associated nursing faculty. Mrs Rappel admits she's also felt the strain of the recent cuts and criticisms aimed at the Hunter's Health Service.
The circumstances are unfortunate that at the time we were just completing the processes of opening the hospital, that the political economy changed so dramatically, and yes, they are finding it quite considerable strain.
The nursing director believes the state government has not only cut into the health service, but also into the public's confidence in its own hospitals.
I believe that we could be verging on going too far with this sort of thing. There's a groundswell of concern that politicians and bureaucrats are losing sight of the community and the people who exist in a community.
While Mrs Rappel leaves behind the responsibilities of overseeing 1,500 nurses, she's certain of the John Hunter Hospital's ability to properly serve the region.
I think the future here is a magnificent future if the people of this community will take their new hospital amongst themselves and recognise that it's theirs.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
British publishing king Robert Maxwell, who drowned off the Canary Islands.
Waterbombing fires is a familiar role for the Lifesaver Rescue helicopter, but new equipment has radically improved its ability to bring a fire under control in less time. The Bambi bucket carries up to 700 litres of water, which can be scooped from any source, including dams and rivers. The new bucket has the largest capacity of any similar equipment available to Hunter firefighters, but the real advantage is a fire-retardant foam, which can be mixed with the water in flight.
The foam increases the volume of the water up to 15 times, but the effectiveness of the water by about 3 times. So instead of dropping 700 litres of water, we have the effect of dropping over 2,000 litres.
Working in contact with a ground crew, the helicopter can drop the fire retardant right on target. The effect of the expanding foam is spectacular. The fire retardant isn't cheap, but the Lifesaver helicopter crew says the ability to quickly bring a bushfire under control could result in savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential fire damage, not to mention the cut down in the number of flight trips required. In the meantime, the Hunters fire brigades have a new and spectacular ally in the seasonal war against bushfires.
Mr. Bush, aware, of course, that this is Election Day, did take the opportunity during his Benin meeting to say something about the sluggish U.S. economy. But what he said indicated there would be no new administration plan to spark growth.
That T-shirt, recession.
The Democratic Party is selling those T-shirts for $10 apiece. On the back is a list of all 32 foreign destinations Mr. Bush has visited or plans to this year on what the Democrats are calling his Anywhere But America tour.
Mr. Summers and I tried to do some work in there. What are you doing?
Harry and I are writing a song, Dad.
Well, couldn't you write it over at Harry's house?
Hang on, I'll find out. Harry, Dad wants to know if we can meet at your place. You did? Who did?
Harry, Rob...
Several hundred students sat for a second-year nursing exam yesterday afternoon, but the usual examination post-mortem was filled with anger and tears.
And I was confident of this exam when I walked in, but when I came out I was just very upset.
A group of students who don't want to be identified for fear of victimisation claim that the paper they sat for was a shambles.
I feel it was the department's fault not having proofread the paper. I felt was a major problem. Typing errors, changing of sexes.
The students allege supervisors were having to constantly interrupt the exam to reword questions or explain ambiguities.
The whole place was in an uproar. So every 5 to 10 minutes you were losing concentration, there were people talking around you.
With everyone interrupting, you just couldn't concentrate. It's a big exam, it's a 3-hour exam, you have to pass.
Although the faculty gave the students an extra 30 minutes to finish the exam, they say that's not good enough. The students assert that whether they pass or fail this year hinges on the exam, so they want special consideration in the marking or for it to be rescheduled.
If there's been a genuine error, it should show up in the students' responses, and the people marking the papers can make allowances accordingly. So nobody is going to suffer if there was a genuine error in the setting of the exam.
Mr Minor says a review of the nursing exam will be held on Monday. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Alderman Callaghan says she could be the first from the Hunter to serve on the 16-member NRMA Council. Joining her from the recent election are the Australian Rugby Union captain Nick Farr-Jones, former Olympian Dawn Fraser, Lynn Ralph and Gordon Douglas. Alderman Callaghan is pleased she's become a councillor and that 4 of the members are women. The NRMA Council meets once a month, and Alderman Callaghan says her new job won't interfere with her mayoral activities in Cessnock. Alderman Callaghan says one of her first tasks will be to question the NRMA's decision to support the diversion of petrol taxes to finance roadworks in Sydney rather than in country areas, particularly the Hunter and the Pacific Highway. There was a keen interest in the poll, with more than 1 million ballot papers issued.
The Hunter business community had its eyes fixed firmly on the future on the opening day of the Complete Business Expo. The prevailing theme was work smarter rather than harder, something applauded by official guest Sally Ann Atkinson, the former Lord Mayor of Brisbane.
Ordinary Australians are the ones with the answers, not the politicians and not the government. And business, of course, has the expertise, the experience in government, and they should be concentrating on that and using it for the overall good.
The message wasn't lost on local entrepreneurs who flocked to the expo in their hundreds.
And it's already a long way up from last year. It wouldn't surprise me if it's 5 or 10 times as big as last year from a public point of view.
54 exhibitors will continue to display their wares at the Western Suburbs Leagues Club during the next 2 days.